Hello and welcome back to another video. Now, a little bit more of a serious topic today in this video because I feel like it needs to be addressed. Someone needs to say something about it. People have been saying things about it, but I want to offer my opinion about this whole topic because people are addressing it, but, I don't think the general public is getting on board. I don't know how much of a general public I can bring to this video or this topic, but I wanna at least have a go and have a try because that's what Australia is about, having a fucking try at it. The hardest part of making these videos is always pressing that fucking record button, because you don't know if you're gonna fuck your words up. You don't know if you're gonna, make something that makes no sense or you know, that's just the general thing. This video is hard enough for me to make because I've already tried 3 or 4 times to make this video with insufficient, I can't string words together because it's a hard video for me to make. But let's just get relaxed and chill out for a minute or two. Sit back on your couch or your chair, whatever, and just relax for this video, and I'm going to try and explain everything the best I can. It doesn't make it easier because I think I've explained this in another video. I have autism, so it doesn't make it extremely easy for me to do these things or this type of video. And plus I know I'm seeing a little bit of reflection on my glasses. I'm looking out at a window straight ahead, window outside. The situation in Australia, it's not good at the moment. For two main reasons I can think of right off the top of my head is one will be the cost of living. That's a lot of things, and two will be the immigration, the out of control immigration in this country. The thing is, we have a federal election rolling around in a couple of weeks, or whenever the fuck it's supposed to be. It was meant to be a couple of months ago, I think. But Anthony Softcock Benese, he wants to keep pushing everything out. Just remove your set of tits, grow a pair of balls, and just fucking call the election. Because I know you're scared because you won't get another term. Well, I don't think so. All of this is just my opinion. All of this is speculation. I don't know if he'll get another term, to be honest with you. That's the thing. But I don't think he's the right person for the job. I'm not going to try and coerce people into voting into someone else, because you guys are your own people. You'll vote who you want to vote for. I'm not gonna try and coerce people into voting for one person and some bloody person else, because but the thing is, we'll get back to that later, but the big issues in Australia are cost of living and immigration. I want to talk about both of them in this video, but I don't want to drag this video out, but this video will be as long as it needs to be. So cost of living is a big issue in this country. It's been going up and up and up ever since Labor got into power. Well, Labor won by a fucking huge margin back in, I think, 2021 or something, whenever the last election whenever the last election was. How old was I? I think I was 17 at that time. Just too young to vote then, but I'm 20 now. The thing was, Labor was great because of this coronavirus issue. Mark McGowan for the WA Premier, where I am. I'm in Perth. He was doing good, saying that don't let any more people in to WA. We want to try and keep this thing under control. Then, of course, as time went on, he got more and more shit, until he fucked off, and Roger Cook became the Premier, because it wasn't looking good for him. But, anyway, Labor won by a huge margin in 2021. The thing was, I think that's when it was. It was around there. You can fucking quote me better if you know better. Cost of living, yeah. It was meant to go down, and the news said, yes, this is the news. The mainstream media, can you trust it? Fuck no. Because here's a fact. Here's proof of them lying. Because the mainstream media said that the Prime Minister a couple of months ago now was going to hold shops and supermarkets, whatever you want to call them, to account. He was going to hold them to account and say that, they need to lower their prices or they're going to get a big fucking fine, something like that. Has that happened? Fuck no. It's not happened at all, and it's very blatantly obvious that it hasn't happened. People can see it. The shops have just continued their trajectory more and more up. The prices have gone more and more higher and higher, and it doesn't take a fucking genius to see it. Even if you're blind, you're seeing iDog can fucking see it going up. That's how fucking stark they're increasing. That's just bullshit. The news is lying. Well, the news, Channel 7, okay? Channel 7 is very full of, it's not full of lies. I don't want to give the wrong impression here, but there is propaganda laced in there. It's laced with propaganda, and that's a fucking lie that they said that the prices, well, the Prime Minister was going to hold shops to account, accountability, and fucking say, this shit's going down, because it's not going down, it's going fucking up. And if an autistic person can see it, me, then, the general public has a better chance of seeing this shit happening too. It's absolutely bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And I'm sorry to keep saying the, autistic, blah, 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 but, I don't really like the fact that I have autism. Yeah, what the fuck. But less about me, more about this country, I think. That's the cost of living, that's, things are going up, they're becoming harder to afford, people are buying less, people are skipping out on meals, because they simply can't afford it, and, what do? You can't afford it, that's that, the government is saying tough nuts, that's it, fucking, it's bullshit. That's what it is. It's bullshit. And the government's not going to fix it. Labor's not going to fix it. Anthony Softcock Benese, that's what I've been calling him. He just wants to play with himself in his office, because he doesn't care. And if this video gets censored by YouTube and doesn't get shown to people, well, then that'll just, that's politics at play right there, I reckon. But that's cost of living for you right now. Australia's fucked in the ass because of what Labor's doing to it. The other thing is immigration. Big trouble, big problem there for immigration. We used to let in 80,000 immigrants a year or migrants a year. That was sustainable. But now we're letting in 500,000 people in a year. That's just fucking crazy. That's a big problem because Labor, I think deep down, they know what they're doing is a problem. I think when you get below that corporate veil, I think they know what they're doing and they know that it's wrong, but they're not going to be the first to admit it. They're not going to admit it at all. That's Labor. The whole thing of bringing migrants in is that they were meant to be skilled migrants. Labor blamed it all on a skills shortage. Anthony Albanese blamed it all on a skills shortage. So we need more migrants to fill up those skills, and bring the gap smaller. But we've let in 500,000 immigrants from one country, and we all know what that one country is. It begins with an I. I'm not going to say anything more. You know, we've let in more than 500,000. We've let in so many, and we still have those same skill shortages. So who the fuck are we letting in? Because, you know, it's fine to blame it all on a skill shortage, but how are you gonna fucking fix that? You're gonna bring in, you know, unskilled migrants, unskilled immigrants, you know, to this country. You're gonna you know, ruin this country even more. You know, put strain on housing. You know, no one can afford a house because cost of living, the prices are too high. No one can get into a house because these people from overseas get into every fucking house. Australians, Labor's not putting Australians first. Liberal won't. You know, this two-party system has to fucking go. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later, after sort of finished with immigration. But, you know, immigration, we were blaming it on a skill shortage. And, you know, we've still got those same skill shortages despite letting in close to 1 million people from one fucking country. Why are we letting them all in from one country? Why can't we disperse people from, you know, bring a little bit of variety in, you know, bring it in from a little bit from America, from Britain, you know, people that can assimilate with the Australian culture. Fuck, I've got a mate who's American. He lives here in Australia. He loves the fucking country, you know. He loves being, you know, he loves being classed as an Australian citizen, you know. Why can't we bring more of those people in rather than the people that want to bring the crime, the violence, you know, that want to stab people, that want to, you know, create gangs here and bring, you know, and tarnish this country? Why do we have to put up with it? You know, most Australians seem asleep, you know, when this problem's going on right in front of them, or, you know, it's not asleep, they're scared to speak up. People are scared to speak up because the government will say, shut the fuck up, listen to what we have to say because that's the truth and the only truth. And if you speak against it, you're going to be put into a fucking solitary confinement against your words and you're not going to be let out. You know, sorry if this sounds a bit tinfoil hat speaking, but it's true. I think people are too scared to speak up against, you know, these problems. On YouTube, a lot of people are speaking up against these problems, you know, but I don't think enough's being done to combat these issues. You know, immigration's a big one for me because I'm seeing this country, you know, being torn apart, you know, literally being divided. You know, it's all good if you want to come to Australia. I got nothing against you wanting to come to Australia. But if you're going to bring fucking violence and drugs and crime and shit like that, then you can piss off. You know, we didn't ask for it. We didn't vote for this. That's the biggest thing. We didn't vote for this. Labor said, Anthony Albanese, he just said, fucking bring them all in. You know, we're not going to vote, you know. And people can call it what they want. People can call it the silent invasion. We won't give a fuck, you know. There was you know, back to last year or the year before, whenever it was, the yes vote, when they wanted to bring an Indigenous voice to Parliament. The thing was, you know, that was a majority no. And to be honest, I don't really think Anthony cared whether, you know, it became yes or no. I don't think he cared because, you know, he put it out to the public to decide. You know, that's what happens when you don't care. You put it out to the public. You know, we didn't get advised on this. We didn't get asked if we'd like, you know, 500,000 migrants coming into this country, because the answer would have been a resounding fuck off, a resounding no. We didn't get asked. You know, that's the problem. We didn't get asked about this. So, you know, he's putting money and crime against above Australians. You know, you see houses full of this, you know, I'm going to say it, full of Indians, right? 3 cars out the front full of Indians. in that house while, well, half a kilometre away, a poor bastard that was born here rather than, from overseas. A poor bastard that was born here sleeps on the streets, half a kilometre in front of the shops or whatever, What's that doing? You're not putting Australians first, that's the fucking thing. And back to Channel 7 with being full of propaganda. They've got what you call an election needle. I'll put a picture up on screen if I can find it. And they've got this election needle here, which means that it's meant to show who's more favourable of being the next Prime Minister in Australia. Funny enough, they're only bringing the top two parties in, the Labor and Liberal. What about the independents? What have they got? What percentage is voting for them? Apparently, in the middle, there's a toss-up. It's called a toss-up, which is a bit fucking funny. I reckon the tossers at Channel 7 are proud of that. And then you've got a lean on both sides, and then it's meant to say it's leaning toward Labor or Liberal, and then a likely, which means it's pretty likely that they're gonna fucking win this election. For a while, it was in that middle toss-up section. Now it's leaning toward Labor. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, because yes, while not a lot of people like Peter Dutton because he's a bit of a dick, not a lot of people like Anthony Albanese because, well, he's a bit of a dick as well. They're both dickheads. They're both gonna keep immigration coming. They're both gonna keep letting people in. They're both gonna keep, this cost of living keep coming up and up, because back 30 years ago, Labor used to be on this side of the fence and Liberal used to be all the way on this side of the fence. Labor used to be, from my understanding, for the people, and Liberal used to be for the corporate business enterprise sort of thing. Sorry, I fucked up a bit there. But yeah, that was about 30 years ago. Throughout the 30 years, they've been getting closer and closer and closer together, to a point where they're almost indistinguishable. They're giving each other high fives under the desk and shit like that, because they're the same. They're pretty much the fucking same. There's a whole slew of problems for this country. Green energy. That's all good and all, but we don't have the infrastructure. By 2030, we're shutting down all coal plants. That'll be all fucked, We don't have enough to, turn on the lights at home. We're going to have blackout after blackout after blackout. These videos that you're watching here won't be possible because I won't have enough battery on my phone to make them or anything like that. It'll all be fucked in a couple of years. We're in 2025, so yeah, 5 years time, 2030, that's when Labor plans to shut these things down. Anyway, I didn't really want to talk about that because that's not it is a big problem. Everything that Labor is doing is causing a big fucking, for all of the cost of living and all the immigration and all Channel 7 propaganda, with this fucking election needle pointing more toward Anthony Albanese these days than in the middle. I don't think people should vote for Anthony Albanese. I don't think people should vote for Labor or Liberal. I think what you guys should do, I don't want to, I'm not coercing people. I don't want to coerce, but, people need to have, I encourage people to have a look at the independents, the smaller parties, I'm not going to say any names here because, again, I don't want to coerce people into voting something that they're not fully on board with. But I reckon people should have a look at the smaller parties. I encourage people to have a look at the smaller parties rather than the two big bullshit artists that we have. The cost of living, kiss your ass goodbye, because it's just going to get higher and higher with Labor or Liberal. And immigration, kiss your national identity goodbye, because they're just gonna keep letting more and more people in. You know, either party's gonna keep letting more people in. Anyway, I don't want to get too political because I don't want to really make another video about this, because I'm not a political channel. I don't want to become a political channel. I just want to be a fun channel. You know, blowing shit up in a microwave, or you know, building Lego, or doing tool reviews. That's my thing. But this problem is not going away. If anything, it's getting worse. And look, if a 20-year-old autistic prick like me can see through it, then yeah, the national average is seeing through it too. Is seeing it a lot better than I'm seeing it. Anyway, that's all that I really wanted to say for this video. Well, I covered a lot of topics, I think. But there are a lot more people that are doing a better job on this topic than I am. And yeah, anyway, before I keep rambling on about bullshit, I'm going to shut this video down, because I think that's all that needs to be said. And yeah, anyways, tell us in the comments if this video gets shown to people. Sorry, my beard's doing a bit something stupid here. Sorry if that's triggering. It's triggering me. Sorry if that's triggering any of you. But yeah, in the comments below, fucking tell us what you guys think about this, you know. I'm opening the floor to you, the comment section to you guys. I read through them all. If this video blows up or anything, I'll try and get to them all. Because I'm a small channel, I can view all of my comments usually. If this video gets censored, well, then that's what it shall be. But yeah, anyway, what do you guys think? That's the biggest thing. And I'm not going to ask who you're voting for, because, you know, keep that shit to yourself. But yeah, what do you guys think about immigration, the cost of living, this green solar energy shit? Because yeah, these are problems that are just getting worse and worse by the day. And yeah, anyways, hope you did enjoy this video, and next video will hopefully be a lot more of a happier topic. I don't want to become a political channel, because that's not what I stand for. Anyways, see you guys in the next one.